This March 3rd, 2025 Medicine Hat City Council meeting is called to order at 6:30 p.m. We will begin with a moment for prayer or reflection. The City of Medicine Hat acknowledges that we live and work on treaty territory. The city pays respect to all Indigenous peoples and honors their past, present, and future. We recognize and respect their cultural heritages and relationships to the land. Our first agenda item is adoption of previous council meeting minutes. These are the minutes from our regular council meeting on February 18th, 2025. Are there any errors or omissions? Okay, we will adopt the minutes for the corporate record as presented. Next is the adoption of the agenda. I believe Councillor McGrogan has a couple of items to add.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I have two notices of motion I'd like to add, one in relation to expenses and the other in relation to zoning.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder for those additions? Thank you. Councillor Van Dyke. Are there any other additions or errors on the agenda? Okay, so we will vote to add the two additional items to the agenda. Thank you. And so we will adopt the agenda as amended. Councillor announcements. Does anyone have a councillor announcement to make today? Okay, I have just one. I just wanted to extend my congratulations, and I think certainly on behalf of this council, congratulations to the Southeastern Alberta Search and Rescue Association on their 25th anniversary. So Southeastern Alberta Search and Rescue was established in 1999. They're a nonprofit, volunteer-based association that contributes to the safety and well-being of our region by responding to requests for help, searching for lost or missing people, seeking evidence related to investigations, and assisting with disaster management. The request would come from the Medicine Hat Police Service, City of Medicine Hat, RCMP detachments, and regional municipalities, including local counties and conservation officers. Obviously, being volunteer-based, if that's something that you think you might want to get involved in, you can certainly go to their website and there's a form you can fill out. And I am advised that you do not have to be in peak physical condition in order to volunteer. So congratulations again to them. Any other councillor announcements? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone have any items they would like to pull out for discussion? Councillor Van Dyke.
Thank you. Through the chair, not questions, but a comment just on 8.7, if I may, asset management program summary.
Okay, so we will pull that item out. Any other items to pull out? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda items with respect to all of the items listed except for 8.7?
I move that council adopts the consent agenda items as presented with the exception of 8.7.
Thank you. Seconder?
A second.
Okay. We will vote. Councillor Van Dyke?
Oh, sorry. There.
Yes, we believe you. Sometimes it just doesn't work.
It didn't want to work.
Councillor Van Dyke, would you like to speak to item 8.7 at this point?
Yes, thank you. The only reason through the chair, the only reason I pulled it is I had thought that maybe there would be a presentation on this, so I checked first, but there isn't. So I just wanted to bring attention to the work being done by the administration in this area. I know that when we started as a council, there was concerns around asset management and if it was probably properly being accounted for and planned in the future. And so I was really pleased to see this and the work that's been done so far, and I look forward to continued additional work in this area going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to make a motion for council to receive item 8.7 for information?
I will make a motion for council to receive 8.7.
I will second.
All right, we'll vote on that. And that's unanimous. Moving on to unfinished business, the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan, bylaw 4846. So first reading of this bylaw occurred on January 20th, 2025. A joint public hearing that included the City of Medicine Hat, Cypress County, and the town of Red Cliff occurred on February 12th, 2025. So this item is now here for second reading. We anticipate that there, as the council's debate or undergo their debates on this item, there may be amendments coming forward. So we're going to just give second reading today on this particular bylaw.
I can do that. I move that council give second reading to bylaw 4846.
I'll second that.
Councillor Knodel.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. It's come to my attention that I could have a possible pecuniary interest in regards to this, the IDP, and I am going to recuse myself. Will somebody let me know when it is done?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Knodel, and I apologize that I didn't get you ahead of time. All right, Managing Director Bohan, do you feel like the summary I gave accurately describes the situation? We're at second reading.
Yeah, that accurately describes the situation now.
Okay, so we'll vote on second reading. So that's unanimous as Councillor Knodel recused herself, and we'll just wait for Councillor Knodel to come back in. So the next item is the 2025 to 2026 city budget borrowing bylaws. And first reading of this bylaw occurred on February 3rd, 2025. And there was a notification sent out. City Clerk, if you wouldn't mind providing the notification report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw 4847 to amend debenture borrowing bylaw. Bylaw 4847 received first reading on February 3rd, 2025. Public notice of the subject bylaw was published in the Medicine Hat News on Saturday, February 15th, 2025, and Saturday, February 22nd, 2025. No written submissions were received.
All right, can I get a motion for second reading?
I can make that. I move that council give second reading to bylaw 4847.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Sharps and Councillor Hyder. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote on second reading. That's unanimous. Would anyone like to make a motion for third reading of the bylaw at this time?
I can do that. I move that council gives third and final reading to bylaw 4847 to incur indebtedness by way of issuing debentures in the amount of $51,732,000 for debenture-funded council-approved 2025-2026 capital projects.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on third reading. All right, that passes unanimously, and bylaw 4847 is passed. Item number 10, new business. This was a notice of motion put on our last council agenda. So now it's a motion coming forward for council consideration. The sponsor is Councillor Sharps. If you wouldn't mind getting your motion on the floor by making it and then getting a seconder.
Sure. So I move the council directs administration to provide the potential financial impact to all ratepayers, regardless of class, by adjusting the medium commercial rates to 50 kVA with the consumption greater than 5,000 kilowatts. By extension, this would propose making the small commercial classification be defined as those with the demand of up to 49 kVA and a consumption of less than 5,000 kilowatts per month. Would you like me to read both motions or just one at a time? I guess we have to.
If there's separate motions, we can
We'll do them
them
separate.
separately.
Yeah.
Do we have a seconder on the first motion?
I'll second that.
All right, Councillor Hirsch seconds. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, and I actually forgot the date. I apologize. I was going to add it today, and it should be the first week in April, or the first council meeting in April.
So you would like to
April 6th?
amend your motion to
Yes.
include, comma,
Correct.
council meeting?
Sorry. April 7th, I apologize. Thank you, Councilor Van Dijk.
That's still good. You can just leave it like that, because,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you. 2025, you could add if you like. All right, so we have an amendment on the floor. Can I get a seconder for it?
I'll second that.
All right, let's vote on the amendment. The amendment is passed. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I would love to speak to my motion. So, a little bit of background here. On December 16th, 2024, City Council instructed administration to conduct a jurisdictional scan regarding the KVA range in the medium commercial class. The consultant's findings indicate that the demand energy for Medicine Hat's medium commercial rate class is comparable to that of similar jurisdictions, with some understandable nuances. The analysis focused on 6 municipalities where the medium commercial classification begins at a demand range of 25 kVA. However, after reviewing the data, it appears that 50 kVA should be considered the minimum threshold, as anything below 50 kVA still falls under the small commercial category. Therefore, I would like to submit this notice of so that's my notice of motion. So the reason I brought this forward, when we brought this back to committee, the assessment was that we were very much aligned with other communities. However, when you looked at the actual analysis, it looked like every other committee started at 50 kVA, or community rather, apologies, started at 50 kVA and ours started at 25. So when I sit here as a citizen and I need to say this was brought to our attention by a small business owner who had actually flagged it with us in July of last year. So she flagged it with us in July of last year. It took a couple of motions of this council to get this moving forward and this council getting all on the same page. So we're on the same page. And as I look and I think, okay, we own our own utilities, and I'm sitting here talking to our business community saying, we have an advantage in Medicine Hat, but they are literally starting at 25 kVA versus 50 kVA. I am unable to tell them where my advantage is and why they should open their businesses here and keep their businesses here. I'm not looking for them to have to reduce rates. I'm just looking at them to have fair rates. And so when I look at the analysis that was provided by the consultant and everybody else started at 50 kVA, and I understand there's nuances in that, I really do, but 25 is almost punitive. So, and I'm going to give an example to this council while they consider the vote on this, was this morning, this particular small business received her utility bill, and it was exactly 25.04 kVA with a whopping bill of $700 some. Now, if she would have been in the small business classification, her bill would have been about $200 to $300. And I'm not trying to get them cheaper bills, I'm just trying to let them be able to run their businesses effectively with a fair range of our electric business. So that's my background.
Thank you. Any more discussion or debate? Councillor Hirsch, Managing Director Pancoast.
Sorry,
And then
if I
us.
may, I don't mean to, I won't speak to the analysis per se, that will be coming, subject to council vote. However, that proposed date isn't actually doable by staff. It will take several weeks of work to redesign the model, do the modeling, and then verify it to bring it back to council for consideration. So we could certainly have it within Q2, but it's virtually impossible to have it back in time for the proposed date.
Can I ask city manager to jump in? Because I just clarified with her.
Thank you, through the chair. Understanding that this has been dealt with a few times, can you give us, when you say Q2, I think, can you give us a more specific deadline, Managing Director?
If I may, the other option, which we've done in the past, is to leave it at April 2025, the first meeting. And then at that point, you can just come back and say, this is the date that we expect to be able to, because you'll have maybe a better sense at that time. So either option, a more specific date in Q2 or just an update at the first meeting in April 2025. City Manager Mitchell and then Councillor Van Dyke.
Thank you, through the chair. I just think that we just want to be mindful of managing expectations, and I think Managing Director Pancoast is trying to say, if we leave it here, that's fine. It just says April, but it says first regular council meetings. But I want to hear from you again, if we can, through the chair. Just when do you think this work could be done to make sure that council has all the data they need?
Thank you, City Manager, and through the chair, we anticipate it will take at least 4 weeks of modeling and analytical work. Plus, then usually it's upwards of 4 to 6 weeks to route through our process, including committee, to come back to council from there.
Can you repeat the date?
For clarity, it will take a minimum of 2.5 months.
City Manager Mitchell.
Thank you, through the chair. When you say reroute through the process, and I know that does take a considerable amount of time, because this has already been to council and has been through committee, I don't believe, and somebody, the clerk can jump in if she wants to correct me, that it would have to go through admin committee, through EL&E again, and then back to council. And given the time constraints, I do believe we could skip those process if everybody was in favor of that. I do understand that it's beneficial for the vetting piece, but I do think it's already been through committee, it's been through admin committee. So I think in the matter of time, if we skip that, could we shorten the time frame?
Yes, thank you, City Manager. Through the chair, we certainly could remove the inclusion of the Energy, Land and Environment Committee as part of the process, for instance, so we could certainly shorten that time. I will highlight, however, that what I believe or understand to be proposed is revisiting the cost allocation for which the utility needs to recover its costs. So it is a zero-sum game, and when we do introduce an additional rate class of which is being proposed, that will mean impacting the other rate classes to a degree. That is not a simple process, which is why it does take time, and would have the following step after that, if council is interested in that outcome, would be to move to bylaw amendments. So this would shift into something very tangible that will impact at least those 2 rate classes, if more. So that's where it does take the extra work and extra review to make sure that it's appropriate before it becomes bylaw with costs imposed across the various rate classes.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion to amend based on what they've heard?
I'll make a motion to amend based on what we have heard from Managing Director Pancoast in regards to what the appropriate and,
Well, you have to
Manageable.
specifically, like,
yeah,
what,
I'll get there, so. So it states by the first regular city council meeting, so I guess we'd need a particular date, but within Q2.
do we have a seconder for that amendment?
I'll second the amendment.
Okay. So, any discussion on the amendment? Counselor Sharps?
So I won't support the amendment. I'm going to stand by my initial motion, and here's why. Again, this citizen came to us in July. So, and then met with me repeatedly after her frustrations. And then I took it to the Chair of Energy. Again, it went back to closed. And this isn't a dig, it's just showing the frustration of our community. They need us to pivot a little bit faster than this. So they bring it to us, and we kick it around, and we kick it around, and it goes to committee, and we're still exactly where we are from July of last year. So I won't support this, and I do understand what you're saying, Managing Director Pancoast, I really do. But if every other community that doesn't own their own energy is sitting at 50 kVA, it tells me that something can be done here. And I mean, you know, maybe I'll come back with a business arising motion to just adjust, like example, sitting 25.04 and being punitive, because it is a zero rate gain, like you say, except for if you look at the MCAF for this individual, it almost triples. And so MCAF shouldn't triple if it's a zero sum game. It's the same access. So why does it go substantially more from small to medium? I mean, it's still same access. So I think there's other things that we can do here, and if Q2 is the only way we're gonna see this number, I will come back with a business arising.
Any other discussion? Counselor Van Dyke, I assume that yours is on the main motion. Counselor Hirsch, you're looking pensive.
Well, and so it sounds like what you're trying to propose, Madam Chair, is the amendment as it speaks. I guess what I'm looking for is some sort of compromise in regards to the body. So I certainly appreciate Councillor Sharp's passionate presentation. I guess the challenge is, and we discussed this at committee, there's a difference between the one-off issue that we have with the business person at hand. But what I tried to discuss during committee is trying to extrapolate that and understand by moving the dial from 25 to 50 has a cumulative effect of all the ratepayers. And that's what the information I was seeking, is to what extent is that cumulative pain or that threshold in that regard. So I appreciate the effort it's going to take, and if it is 2 months to get us good data, I'm okay with that. And I guess if it's a friendly, I just look at the calendar and say, okay, 2 months from today is, May 3rd, or the next, council meeting in May, if that's an amendment. And I know Q2 is vague. Either that, or I would support the idea of being, I guess, and we're already talking about it as quick as we can get the data, then I would absolutely trust and have comfort that Managing Director will get us that information as soon as it's available, so.
Okay, so are you, so this is a secondary motion, and are you proposing a motion to change because we should vote on this motion to amend,
Sure.
and then if you would like to put forward a motion to amend, you are welcome to do that.
Okay.
Okay. No further discussion on the motion to amend. We will vote. Okay, how did you wish to vote? You can just tell me how you wish to vote. Okay, Councillor Knodel intended to vote yes. So it's 4-4, so it's, but Councillor Knodel intended to vote yes, so that defeats the motion. Any further motions to amend the original motion? Counselor Hirsch?
So I'd just amend the motion. I'm fine with the whole body of the motion, but just to indicate that we'd like to have it back to us by the first council meeting in May, which is basically our 2 months.
Is there a seconder to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, discussion? Counselor
Knew that was coming.
Counselor Sharps?
Okay, so just clarification from Counselor Hirsch, if you don't mind. So this is exactly what we asked for in committee, was that, what is it going to affect? So this is about pulling the data, this isn't changing the bylaw. So if we can already tell that they're at dumping 25 KVA at 2 o'clock in the morning and our system can do that, how is it that we can't tell how many users are at each KVA?
Managing Director Pancoast?
Thank you. Through the chair, my interpretation of the ask is the redesign of our system to add an additional rate class, which changes the cost allocation and recovery of all the other rate classes as well. But if you're simply asking for data, that was an action out of the committee meeting. We do have that, and I believe we had initiated a process to circulate that and can recirculate that if needed.
Okay, no, I did not receive that, so no, I'm going to stand by this. But I guess I'm not seeing an addition to a classification. It's still small and medium, and I'm still suggesting it's small and medium. I'm just suggesting our small and medium align with every other community. That's all.
Does that make sense? It's not an additional rate class, it's just moving the scale for the small, medium.
Yes, thank you. That is helpful. I suspect when we do the analysis, we will look at additional options. One of the options could be splitting the current rate class into two. So that is additional work we would look to do. Because by definition, if we change this rate class to a smaller one, it makes the other ones bigger and changes the cost allocation on a zero-sum game basis. So you're automatically creating more defined winners and losers. So we will look at additional options to try to find that optimal outcome, which is partly why it will take additional time to do the work.
Okay, so on this motion to amend, are there any additional comments or discussion? Okay, so we'll vote on the motion to amend. Okay, that passes. Now we're back to the main motion. And Councillor Van Dyke has her name on the list to speak to the main motion.
Yes, thank you, and through the chair. So this notice of motion had originally been in our last meeting, so it did have time to go out into the community a bit. And I had reach out from some people in the community, and so I just wanted to address that. So I am going to support this request for information because I think it is helpful for the community to know the numbers and the reasoning behind decisions being made by administration and council. But the concerns that I heard from community members was that a change would be inequitable to other classes. So while I support this motion tonight, that doesn't mean that when the information comes forward that I would be supporting necessarily any change in our current methodology or rate system that exists now. So I just wanted to make that clear because of the concerns I've heard from the community. Thank you.
It's a good clarification. Councillor Van Dyke, any other speakers? Okay, we will vote on the main motion. And that passes. Councillor Sharps, now to your second motion.
Thank you very much. I move that council directs administration to provide communication options to ratepayers when they exceed the threshold, including a consideration of a 60-day grace period to understand and address the factors contributing to their increased consumption.
Can I get a seconder for that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Councillor Robbins seconds. Councillor Knodel.
Can I speak to my motion?
Yes, my apologies.
Thank
Councillor
you. Sorry,
Sharps, you
Councillor
may
Knodel,
speak.
give me 2 minutes.
You may
I'll
speak
make
to your
this really,
motion.
thank you. So again, this was just from the original motion. And I want to just state that staff did actually give this individual 60 days. The problem is they didn't tell her. They gave her 60 days. So by the time she got her very first bill, she had no knowledge that she had 2 months. So it's super important that we communicate back to the user that this was the issue. So I do believe we still have some concerns with how the bill is coming through. When I looked at it yesterday, the data dump is still very clearly coming through at 2 a.m. So it is hard to understand that from a consumer point of view. So while you may understand it in this City Hall, our users, the one paying the bill, do not. So at the very least, that 60-day grace period allows them to adjust their business accordingly.
I just want to ask, is there any questions of clarification regarding that?
Through the chair, no, this is actually something we had recognized and committed to within our prior briefing note. We had proposed defining a formal process or procedure for rate reclassification, including a defined grace period and proactive customer communication by the end of Q2.
Councillor Knodel.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. I was just going to reflect on the fact that I thought this had been proposed at a prior time and was wondering if staff could illuminate that point. So thank you.
Councillor Van Dyke.
Thank you through the chair. Councillor Knodel took the words out of my mouth. I was just going to say it was my understanding that this was part of the implementation plan from the briefing note. And so I wondered if there was something additional that I had missed or if this was not already going to be moved forward.
Councillor Sharps, does that speak to what you're looking for?
It does, and even though I know Managing Director Pankos did send me a message reminding me that there was a briefing note on that, but I have come to realize that if there isn't a motion of council and a will of council, that that does not happen. So by request of administration to make sure that there is motions, I am doing just that.
Councillor, okay, I still have Councillor Van Dyke on. Okay. Any further debate? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote on the motion. All right, that passes. Moving on to item 10.2, Chamber of Commerce Street Naming Request. City Manager Mitchell, would you please give us an introduction?
Thank you through the chair, and I am going to turn it over to Councillor Hyder, who sits on the naming committee, and let her take it from here. Thank you.
My apologies, Councillor Hyder. I didn't have that in my notes. Go ahead.
Thank you, and through the chair. It's all good, Mayor Clark. We meet once in a blue moon kind of thing, and actually I'm very honored and happy to make this wonderful announcement, I guess. So I sit on the naming committee, and things can funnel through, and we get requests from different either organizations or family members and things like that. But today I have the honor to let you know that the Chamber of Commerce, just going to give a little backstory. So I used to call the Chamber of Commerce, but now Lisa's changed it up. It's the Southeast Southern Alberta. Anyway, it's a wonderful organization that's been in our community for 125 years. And it does wonderful work collaborating with businesses now, not only within our community, but down the highway into Brooks and other regions in the Southeast. I'm just so happy for them. The board itself, lots of great members, lots of innovation, lots of creativity. Ms. Lisa Dressler sits as their ED for 15 years now, and they do wonderful work. We work, I think the city works well together. We do our best to have a great relationship, great discussions, and I'm really honored to be able to do, that we are able to do this for them. So with that, I move that City Council approves assigning a secondary permanent commemorative name of Commerce Way to a portion of 6th Avenue Southeast from 1st Street Southeast to 5th Street Southeast.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. Counselor Hyder, okay.
I just wanted to make mention, this idea came forth from a gentleman that I forgot to mention, Chris Hellman, and when I first was elected, so I'm not sure if Chris was here.
He is.
Oh, he is, oh, okay, good, that's nice. And I'm just so happy that we're able to do this.
Thank you. I think it would be helpful for anyone kind of listening, thinking, oh no, my address is going to change, I'm going to have to do all of these things. Can you just clarify what a secondary renaming is?
Sure, absolutely. So, it'll still have the legal, I guess you could say, street address, and what it'll be a sign, is it underneath or up top? Underneath? Underneath, so that it'll have two signs, kind of like the Esplanade and on First Street and things like that. So, yeah, I'm just happy that this is going forward, and I really enjoy the meetings and the conversations we have with the chamber, so.
Thank you. So to clarify, if you are in this portion of 6th Avenue Southeast from 1st to 5th Street, your legal address isn't going to change. You don't have to change your website or anything like that, but we will be just recognizing the contributions of the Southeastern Alberta Chamber of Commerce through the commemorative name.
Yeah, just because it's a celebration for them, and yeah, no, people don't need to worry about their address.
Any other discussion on this item? All right, we will wait for the voting to be reset. And we'll vote. That passes unanimously. Congratulations to all of the contributors to that. Do we have a potential timeline on, like, is this kind of immediate action or wait till the summer season? City Manager Mitchell.
Thank you. Through the chair, one thing too we should mention is that the Chamber of Commerce is hosting a conference at the end of May, and it's a celebration, and it's the Conference of Chambers of Commerces that are going to be here in Medicine Hat, so we are attempting to make sure that is completed well before that date. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on to committee business. 11.1, tax sales 2025. And we have, can I get a motion?
I move that council approves the minimum sale price, reserve bid, and the sale conditions that apply to public tax sale auction in accordance with section 419 and 436.1 of the Municipal Government Act as presented.
Seconder?
I will second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, we'll vote on the motion. That is unanimous. Item 12, notices of motion. So we have item 12.1, that's in the agenda, correct? Yeah. And then we have two additional motions that were put on the table or put on the agenda by Councillor McGrogan. So I would ask, just so we have it for the record, if we could get you to read your motions. If you could actually email them to Steph, okay. We could just get them on the record.
Thank you, through the chair. The first notice of motion relates to request for status report on 737 8th Street Southeast, which is the overnight shelter. And I guess the reason that this all started is as part of MPC last week. We had a number of citizens that live down near the shelter that were, they have concerns about, the potential increased traffic, et cetera. All that being said, the question that has been coming to me since the meeting, and probably because I chaired the meeting, is what is the status of the zoning there? So I'm just going to read this notice of motion. It basically says that whereas the city of Medicine Hat has record of land use zoning for special use locations in the city, whereas the city of Medicine Hat possesses records in historical zoning and land use related to 737 8th Street Southeast, Medicine Hat, therefore let it be resolved that the city council directs administration to provide council with the zoning status report of 737 8th Street Southeast, including the dates the buildings were zoned and the present purpose and existing conditions relating to its operation. This information is requested for the open portion of the April 7th, 2025 council meeting.
Okay, so again, as a reminder, notice of motion, so we're not going to deal with it today, but it is on our agenda now as item 12.2. Item 12.3 is your second notice, and if you wouldn't mind reading that into the record.
Just pulling it up here, hold on, sorry. Thank you. Through the chair, I'm just waiting for it to come up. This again came out of several, I guess, internal emails in relation to expenses of senior management, some FOIP requests, so it caused me to look on the internet and find best practices around the province. So I will read this notice of motion. It says, whereas the City of Medicine Hat senior management incurs expenses in the course of their duties, whereas City Council has for many years published expenses incurred while conducting city business, and whereas the City of Medicine Hat is committed to open, transparent, and accountable local government. Therefore, let it be resolved that City Council directs admin to adjust policy to publish twice per year in the spring and the fall all senior administration expenses, including line item details, including without limitation, business travel, meals, and hosting and employee recognition for the senior administration. Senior management includes city manager, managing directors, and directors. Council directs administration to complete this by the end of Q2.
All right, just a notice of motion again, so no discussion on that. Councillor Hyder, are you okay with just your motion being in the package for reading, or would you like to just state your motion out loud? You sure can.
Thanks, Mayor Clark, and through the chair. Can I give a little preamble, or is that?
Well, you will be given an opportunity to give a preamble,
Okay.
but if you want to read your whereases, you're certainly welcome to.
Okay. I'll just do the whereases. Whereas the City of Medicine Hat has been the recipient of requests from nonprofit organizations for operating grant funding. And whereas a nonprofit capital grant program currently exists within the City of Medicine Hat. And whereas it would be prudent to create a fair, transparent, consistent, and equitable program to process requests from nonprofit organizations for operating grant funding. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Council direct administration to develop a nonprofit operating grant program leveraging the efficiencies, knowledge, and expertise gained in the creation of the nonprofit capital grant program, with the program to be functional by June 1st, 2025.
Thank you. Are there any council member reports? Seeing none, are there any objections to adjourning the meeting as we have no further business? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned at 7:14 p.m.